Hello guys, my name is John Stayskull. I'm a game developer and designer, and today I'm going to show you how to model directly in Unity using ProBuilder. It's a very powerful and time-saving technique, and I think you'll very much enjoy it. So I'm going to cover the core modeling tools and techniques, and then show you how to use them to create a full model. If you're new to this channel, make sure you sub, as I have plenty more game dev content like this coming up. Okay, let's get into it. I'll start by opening up Unity Hub and clicking in New to create a new project. Now I'll be working in version 2019.2.9, you might want to consider being on at least that version. We'll make sure we're in the 3D workspace by clicking 3D from the templates, and we'll give our project an appropriate name, ProBuilder Fun, because that's exactly what we're going to be having. Click Create and let Unity do its magic. Boom! So we now have a fresh 3D workspace. So up here at the Windows tab, we'll go down to Package Manager, give that a click, and that'll open the Package Manager window. You can see down here it's loading some additional packages, so we'll just give that a moment. So from this list you can install any number of interesting packages that Unity has in various stages of development. We are looking for ProBuilder. We can scroll through the list, or we can use a search query here to look for it. So version 4.0.5, we'll click Install, and more magic will happen. And you can see now that Unity has installed ProBuilder here in the packages. We can then head over to the Tools tab, and you can see that ProBuilder has been added to the context menu. We can then click ProBuilder Window to open the main working tab. If you right click at this tab, you can further customize your workspace by going under Window and clicking Floating or Dockable, which allows us to neatly pack this tab into a more practical location. What we have here is a comprehensive list of tools offered by ProBuilder. If we hover over them, we can see what each of these entries does. To make it a bit easier, we can right-click and select Icon Mode here, which puts into a more classic style layout that you might find in other 3D software. Just like with a written list, when you hover over these icons, you get a pop-up telling you what this tool actually does. It also gives you a shortcut key for this tool, which if you plan on doing any ongoing 3D work, I highly recommend getting used to these as they really speed up your workflow. Overall, I personally prefer this icon version of the menu as I find it a lot more intuitive. Clicking the New Shape tool will bring a basic cube into the scene, one of the various 3D primitives. Let's turn off this ugly skybox. Much better. The basic 3D primitives that ProBuilder makes are not to be mistaken with the ones that Unity can also make. And you can see here in the property inspector for this cube, there's a bunch of ProBuilder specific components that have been added. Let's delete this cube and try a different approach to creation. You'll notice some buttons have a little cog icon. This means a button can be alt-clicked to reveal additional useful options. This shape tool gives us a convenient list of different model presets. You can then play with the shape settings to kind of find the initial form factor you like. This stairs generator is particularly cool. We've also got things like door generators and multifaceted pyramids, arches, a sphere generator where you can change the subdivisions to create anything from like dodecahedrons to chiliagon. Or you can make like a Dungeons and Dragons style die. Very cool. For now, we'll go back to the humble cube. Clicking the Build button will officially add the shape to the scene. We can then close this panel off. ProBuilder has also added 4 different 3D selection tools to the scene view, which when toggled will change the tools available in the ProBuilder tab. The first is the Object Selection mode, which allows us to freely move the object in 3D space using the center pivot or the XYZ axes handles. The second is the Vertex mode, which allows us to manipulate a 3D object by selecting and moving the vertex points. We then have Edge Selection mode, which similarly allows us to select edges and move them around to create interesting shapes. You may have noticed these models have a strange repeating texture. It's just the ProBuilder default material that has some measurement information for your convenience. And finally we have the Face Selection mode, which, as you guessed it, allows you to select and manipulate the various faces of the object using Unity's Move, Rotate or Scale tools, which can be accessed through the Transformation toolbar or through the shortcut keys W, E and R. Using the Vertex, Edge and Face tools in conjunction with each other like this is at the core of the modeling experience. So I'm just going to undo those transformations and create a new material for this cube by right-clicking, Create, Material, and then we'll give the name called Default, and we'll just drag this material straight onto the object. And then we can go to the color picker and pick a more aesthetic color. I think I'll go with a nice subtle blue. Yeah, very nice. With the object selected, we go back to the panel and click on the Subdivide Object button. Each click will subdivide the mesh further and further, adding more and more detail to the object. So I'll undo a couple of those and jump to the face tool and shift select a few of these different faces, working my way around the cube. We'll then jump back down to the panel and locate the extrude button, which has a shortcut key of Control E. You'll want to memorize that shortcut, as extruding is very common when designing models and 3D levels, for instance. Clicking extrude pushes the selected faces out from the cube. The extrude button also has a cog icon, so we'll undo this and go down here and alt click. We can then specify the specific extrude values we want, and then hit extrude faces. Very cool. So undo that, and now with one of these lower faces selected, I'm going to go over here to the select face ring tool. That'll highlight the whole row of faces all the way around the cube. We can then hit Control E to extrude, and you can see it's extruded the faces all the way around the model. It's really cool. Might just do the top row to turn it into a bit of a sandwich or something. Yeah, nah. You can also multi-select faces and use a vertical version of this tool to do something similar. Alright, so I'm going to do a couple of quick face extrusions here and then teach you something about edges and edge loops. So with the edge tool selected, you can click one of these edges to isolate it and manipulate it independently. However, you can also double click the edge to select a loop all the way around, allowing you to manipulate this edge loop uniformly, whether it be to move it or to scale it. This is very powerful. We can even add edge loops to this structure by selecting one of the vertical edges, then going down to this edge loop tool down here. Clicking it will add an edge loop. Clicking the edge loop while one of the horizontal edges is selected will add a vertical edge loop. So let's now use all the tools we've learned in a practical way to make a real model, let's say a tree. So sit back, relax, and watch me speed model my first kind of low poly, mid poly tree, using primarily the techniques that we've covered in the first part of this tutorial. You can see here I'm simply working my way around the model, extruding different faces, adding subdivisions through the edge loop tool, and twisting, rotating, extruding, scaling, in an attempt to create somewhat of an organic looking structure. I have plenty more 3D game making tutorials planned as well as 2D, so make sure you sub to the channel so you don't miss out on those. After the main branches were made, I switched to the vertex tool just to clean up the model by moving some of the points around. I quite dislike the positioning of this particular branch here, so I'm going to select all the different faces and detach the model from the main body by clicking the Detach Faces tool down here. Doing so creates a new game object in the scene view and allows us to switch to the object mode and move the branch away from the body like so. The new object's pivot point has been messed up a little bit, but we can hit the center pivot button and bring it back up into a reasonable position. I'm now going to patch up this hole we made and move the branch to the face below it. So to do that, we'll select the edge tool, and I want to select the lip of this hole. And down here there is a fill hole button, so we'll click that and look at that, it's filled the hole perfectly. I'll now select the face below it and hit the detach face button again, this time deleting the face completely. We'll now need to stitch this branch onto this hole, so I'll bring it nice and close so we can see it. And to do this, we'll select one of the edges from each side, and then it will go down to the bridge edges tool down here. And doing so will bridge the different faces. So we'll just work our way around the model, bridging those openings. Surgery successful. So I'll just tidy up some of these vertexes here by moving the points around. Very nice. You can also select a group of different vertexes like this, moving large areas around in one batch. If you can't see a particular vertex or edge, you can turn the actual object off in the inspector and then highlight the vertex or edge. You can then turn it back on and do your modification like so. So let's add some character to the tree by adding some cool roots. This is a really nice way to finish off the base model. So this is looking really cool now, so I think I'll add some color to the tree by adding a new material, and we'll call this one tree bark, and I'll give that a nice kind of brownish color, something like that. We can then drag the material directly onto the tree like so, and just fine tune the color while it's on the tree. Makes it a bit easier. So to wrap this bad boy up, I wanted to put some leaves on the top. So I started with subdivided cube, and using the vertex point mode, I grabbed various groups of points, just kind of playing with them, trying to find a nice round shape that loosely matches the shape of the branches underneath. So just kind of pulling and pushing various vertexes, And I've got to say, this whole process is very intuitive and very therapeutic. It was actually quite pleasurable to just kind of play with these points like this. And it's quite, yeah, it's almost like not work. You could call it playing in a sense, which is refreshing because so much of the daily work we do as game developers is quite grindy and it can be quite tedious and mundane at times with a lot of error handling and troubleshooting and things like that. So it's nice to mix it up with something a bit different. If you're new to this kind of stuff, don't be intimidated. It's actually quite intuitive and you might be surprised at how good you might actually be at it. So give it a go. Now that the tree is finished, I just want to create a floor that I extrude into two different halves. Let's move that up to match with the tree's floor position. With the face tool selected, we can then drag our brown and green materials directly onto the different halves to create this two-tone effect. Now you may have noticed that my tree model is made out of quadrangles as opposed to triangles. Pressing the triangulate objects button over here that looks like an origami paper will triangulate all the faces of the model. It's hard to model like this though, so you might want to do it in quads first before you move to triangles. You can see here a before and after to get an idea of the aesthetic difference. The triangles are very nice. To put the final icing on the cake, I'm going to box model a bunch of rocks that I can kind of scatter around the scene. So similar principles as before, I'm just going to color it now and then I'm going to triangulate it and move them into the scene, duplicating them and rotating them in different ways. These little details should add a nice bit of eye candy to the scene, just making it look a bit more natural. Throw in an orbit camera and boom! Oh, and one more tip for you guys. Don't turn your ProBuilder models into prefabs, as there's some issues with this and it significantly slows down Unity. I hope you've liked the video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. In future videos, I'll be going into the more advanced tooling in ProBuilder and look at things like level design and other useful ways to use it. Alright guys, all the best. See you in the next video.